Welcome, everyone. And my name is Yehudit Steinberg, and I'm a certified Zentangle teacher. And for the next 31 days, I'm going to be showing you a new beginner tangle a day using our step-by-step Zentangle method of demonstrating how to draw a pattern with just 6 elemental lines to create different patterns. Now, um, what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you, here is Crescent Moon, and this is an example of a step out that is really what's very unique to the Zentangle method, because the founders of the method, they decided that it was important for those of us that were not trained as artists and wanted to learn how to draw patterns, that they could, if it was reduced to a step by step, but yet it should be simple enough to obtain this pattern within 6 steps. So the patterns that we are going to be using over the next 31 days are going to have that. Um, you might, if you're searching online and it's you might find a pattern and they may have a step out, but it may be longer than 6 or not, so in the Zentangle method, we're using Zentangle beginner patterns here. They have no more than 6 steps, some are less. So this is Crescent Moon. This is what we're starting with. And I want to show you now um, the materials that we're going to be using. These are the materials that we're going to be using in drawing um, our tangle during this video. Now, if you are joining me in the mandala part, we meet on Sundays, and this is a finished piece that I did last year with a watercolor background. So we're going to be doing a watercolor, adding a little watercolor background to our paper, and then we're going to add um, the tangles, like you can see here where I added Crescent Moon, and how it just starts to really show up. So let's take a look at the materials that I'm going to be using in these videos. You really only need very few, and I'm going to show you what I'm using. So recently I was introduced to the Unipin, and it's become actually my favorite line of fine liners that are waterproof. You want to make sure if you're going to add any water to your drawing that it is water and fade proof. That is an 01. It's very fine lines. Then a very popular um, pen used by the Zentangle community are the microns. And this particular one is called a PN, which stands for plastic nib. And you can see that this nib is a little bit larger. It's also plastic, and it's really great if you're heavy-handed. And the 01 nibs, especially in the micron, are very delicate. So a lot of people choose to use a PN. When you start practicing your tangles, you'll eventually you'll find what works for you because everybody's a little bit different. And this is an '05. This is a Statler, which I also like this pen brand as well. I'm using a 2B. This is a Statler Mars Lumograph, and this is a great set of pencils, graphite pencils. Um, and this is my little tortillon blending tool. And I also use blending stumps. And I have a link that I will add to the description and in the comments where I have the brand that I like of these blending tools the most. So before we get started, I want to talk just a moment about the elemental lines, and we're going to get get our hands ready to draw. So we're going to do a little warm-up exercise. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to show you when we talk about elemental lines, what are we talking about? Well, we're talking about straight line, a C curve, an S curve, and we'll call it an orb. And what I'm suggesting is that before we get started with drawing, it's nice to do a little practice exercise. So let's get present first and take a couple of deep breaths to become present. I like to take I like to take 5 or 10 deep breaths. I find that that starts to relax me. And then now I'd like you to think of something you're grateful for today. Allow the feeling to ground you as we prepare to draw. Let's get our hands warmed with some stretching. So we can warm our hand up. We can do a little bit of stretches. Some of us have arthritis in our hands, and this can really help um, get us started. So I'm going to take my, well, I'm using a 5 here, but it doesn't really matter. What I'm suggesting is just draw some straight lines. You can change the way. And then let's warm up with some C curves. And a few S curves. A lot of people have um, need practice with their S curves. Um, so this is a good way to just get it started, create some muscle memory, etc. And then our orbs. You don't need to be fancy with this. What actually would be nice is to be able to connect it at the end. So I'm going to take a moment and just take a look at what's happening here in the live. I see a test. I'm I'm wondering if I should be live. I'm just not seeing it. Okay. Hi. Okay, great. So, hi everyone. um, it's getting used to where everything is in the new places, but I see Stephanie and Samantha, and thank you so much for for joining. So, this is just a little practice that I'm suggesting that you can do if you're feeling really tight when you're starting to draw. But now let's move on, and we're going to move on to drawing Crescent Moon. Here's the step out. I'm not sure if I gave you a chance to get the a screenshot, but go ahead and get a screenshot of Crescent Moon. And I'm going to be working on a um a bijou tile. Let's move this out of the way for now. This is a 2-inch tile, and as I think I mentioned earlier, where did I put that? Um, that if you choose to use the 2-inch tiles, what's really cool is you can um, do a few things. You can, if you can collect the 31 patterns that we're learning, and you can place them in a coin sheet, and I have a link to that in my materials and resources, that you can get these coin sheets on Amazon, and it fits perfectly, and you can put them all together, and they fit in a notebook. And I have it in a regular 3-ring binder. I have all kinds of patterns, because when I first started doing Zentangle, I was collecting patterns like crazy. Now what I do is I pick these 31 beginner tangles, and I end up going deep inside each of the tangles, and not necessarily even looking at all of the ones that I created, but because I call it less is more. So I want to get started, and the way that we're going to do it today is I'm going to use my graphite. I'm going to put some dots in the corner, and then I'm going to create a border, and the border doesn't not have to be straight, but we are going to line um, the first step of the um, crescent moon are these little half moons, ladybugs, some people call it, that we put around the border. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to pick up my pen, and I'm going to use the PN, because we're also going to um, ink them in. So they basically random around the um, the tile, give them space. I like to give them similar space. This we're going to do, the simple, basic crescent moon. Other times after we learn this, we go into other ways that different modifications that we can make. Now I'm going to ink them in. One of the reasons that crescent moon is the first tangle that we teach is that it has a concept that is called aura-ing, and some of you may have been watching the latest project pack from Zentangle headquarters, where the whole month was focused on the aura. So it's an essential technique that we use, and it's a great it's also a great finishing technique. So Maria Roberts, she says, one of the founders of Zentangle, she says, when in doubt, aura. So I'm going to ink these guys in, these little ladybugs, and then I'm going to show you how we aura. Take your time. Remember to breathe. These videos are really unedited. They're impromptu. They're not sped up. This is, and there's a reason why I don't speed up my videos, and I'm not going to speed up my videos, is because I really feel the value of Zentangle is in its mindful drawing practice. It has um, been a life changer for me in relaxing, focusing, getting in touch with my creative side that I had lost, and helped through the COVID, that whole situation that happened a few years ago. So there you go. Now the next thing is I'm going to change to to this 01, which is a lighter, a very fine, oh, there we go, very fine nib. And you go around that shape and you try to get it to be parallel. And I like to take a breath, slow down. It's not a race. And we're just going to go around this whole little square. And do our first aura. But as I showed you earlier, now it's time to put another aura around. So I'm going to come here, and I really don't have much room in here, so I'm going to give it a little V, turning my tile, because this is where my hand does the best. If I try to go up like this on this paper and this really small nib, the paper grabs it. So I turn it, and then I can give it an arc. And this will all be in relation to how your hands work for you. I have hands that are in the later year of life. They do not have the flexibility that they used to have. So sometimes they get a little bit um, squirrely, and that's okay. We're not trying for perfection here. What we're doing is we're focusing one line at a time, we're taking our breath, and this basically is a meditation. It is a mindful meditation that helps to bring us to the present. And that I see as one of the huge benefits of this practice. And I, I'm going around and around. Taking a deep breath. And you don't need to take a lot of time out of your day to have a meditative drawing practice. You can find 15 minutes that works for you. I like the morning, and you can do a 2-inch tile in about 15 minutes. And this, every time you're focusing, but you're also creating at the same time. So a lot of us, it's really difficult to just sit with our mind without doing anything. So the mindful drawing practice has been really good for me. So now I've completed the tile. The next step is shading. So I'm going to take the shading here that's going down the center of these little V's. And I'm using the side of my um, graphite, and I'm doing this lightly. This is a 2B, as I said in the beginning of this video or session. Huh. Okay, so so people aren't seeing me. I'm just checking to see where. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Oh no. Let's see. Where? Okay, I'm gonna stop for a minute and you know, huh. Okay, you see me just fine. Somehow I had my other group. Yeah. Okay. I will get used to I will get used to this um after a couple of times, because they changed the way that we go live, and I used to go live all the time. So but everything's different now. So there you go. All right. So let's get back to the shading. So I'm just going down um here, and I'm get rid of that old text from Sam. Okay, so now that I did my first layer of shading, and shading is a whole technique in itself. And I created a two-part shading Zentangle method shading course. And that workshop is going to come back again in November. I think it's Saturdays, November 9 and 16, and the registration will open in about 10 days or less. It's ready to go. I just want us to concentrate on one thing at a time, because that's one of the ideas of being mindful and slowing down a bit, not having too many things going on at the same time. All right. So I did my shading. It doesn't show up as much as it is here. I have my new camera, but I haven't gotten that online yet. But I can go in here, you see, and I can come back and go over it and make it a little darker so you can see. Now, another thing you can do in your shading to bring your tangles to life, we can do this, but we can also go around the edge here, and we don't shade over the ink, especially with graphite, because it leaves a shine. But in these spaces in between, I'm doing this on the inside. We can give it a little layer of shading so that it looks like it's going down. Now I'm seeing some of this is smudging over into my border, and that's where me and the no eraser kind of that Zentangle talks about, that's where I make an exception because I want to, I've always used it in shading. And what I do here is clean it up a little bit so I can clean it up a little bit. So this pattern, day one, crescent moon. Tomorrow we're going to do a pattern called Ennies. And that's a that's a fun one too. Okay. There's one other thing that I'm going to show you before we go, and that's I I personally like to frame my work, but um on this type of a pattern, um I might not do that all the time, but here I can go around and I can, kind of connect it together. Notice I'm turning my tile. And here I kind of, I'll fix that up a little bit. The other thing I can do is do you remember I talked about aura? I can give this a little aura. Yeah. Ooh, little squiggly there. All right. So that's crescent moon. The next step that you want to do is sign. So sign your work. So I'm going to put my initial here. And then on the of the top back of the tile, I'm going to make some notes. One is that I'm going to say this was Inktober 2024. And then I put down my teacher or whoever I'm, got this from as a reference so that I know where I can go back and find the video if I want. Crescent moon. So it's really important um, to have the tangle because that will connect it to your step out in case you forget how you did this. And I like to give it a date. And today is October 1st, 2024. And put the year in. I used to forget putting in the year, and that was when you go back to catalog everything, you will not remember when it is. So there we have it. That is the crescent moon. That is our tangle for today. And finally, what I suggest is that you share your drawing on the daily post that is in the Facebook group. There should be one, and it should be in there now. I will put it, I will feature it as well as feature this. And before we wrap up, I just a quick reminder, it's not too late to join our Sunday Mandala Challenge. You'll receive a guidebook and the 5 Sunday Zoom sessions in a great supportive community, and we'll create your unique mandala, something like this. And the information is in the comments here. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you found this time relaxing and inspiring. I'll see you tomorrow for another mindful drawing session. Remember to get your screenshot and put it in the journal. Share your tangle in today's tangle post, and and so we'll see you tomorrow, and have a great day.